What if I told you that a story older than the pyramids, older than the flood of Noah, older than the histories passed down through civilizations, has been quietly waiting, almost whispering, for humanity to remember it? A story not of myth, not of mere allegory, but of celestial beings, judgment, heavenly rebellion, and a world forever changed by divine visitation. A story so bold, so unsettling, that much of the Western world buried it, not because it lacked spiritual weight, but because, perhaps, it possessed too much. This is the Book of Enoch, a text revered in Ethiopia for millennia, quoted in early Christian writings, and once known among ancient Jews, and then suddenly, mysteriously removed from the canon as the centuries passed. Some call it apocryphal, some call it dangerous, others call it prophetic. We call it forbidden. And today, we begin our journey through its most haunting era, the First Age, the generation before the Great Flood, a world touched by angels, haunted by giants, and shaped by a cosmic struggle between obedience and celestial rebellion. Welcome, friends, to the Forbidden Book of Enoch, Episode 1, The First Age, the world before the flood, a realm of strange wonders before humanity knew kingdoms, nations, or temples, before Moses carved commandments into stone or prophets spoke in fire. There lived a man named Enoch. You may remember him from the Bible's book of Genesis. Only a few lines are given. Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. That's it. No details, no biography, no explanation. Just a man who vanished into heaven. But Enoch's own book expands that mystery, and what it reveals is stunning. According to this ancient text, Enoch did not simply walk with God. He witnessed the machinery of heaven. He saw realms beyond time. He stood before thrones of fire. He recorded divine secrets given to no other mortal. And he watched as angels descended, not in glory, but in defiance. The First Age was not primitive, barren, or quiet. It was charged with spiritual tension, like a storm waiting to break. Angelic beings walked the earth. Knowledge flowed into human hands that mankind was never meant to hold. And a generation unlike any before or since came into existence. A generation called the Nephilim. Giants born of forbidden unions, beings of immense strength, born not by the will of God but from a rebellion in the heavens. Enoch was chosen to witness what no ordinary man was allowed to see. And today, we begin walking beside him. Why was Enoch's book hidden? Let's pause for a moment, because a fair and humble question arises here. If this book contains sacred truths, why was it set aside? Why did some preserve it as scripture while others locked it away? The answer isn't simple, and frankly, we must tread carefully with respect for history and faith traditions. Some ancient Jewish sects held Enoch in great honor. Early Christians quoted it. Even the New Testament echoes its themes. Yet over time, debates arose. Concerns about authorship, fears about mystical content, warnings about doctrines too startling, too otherworldly, perhaps too revealing. In the Western world, it faded from use. In Ethiopia, it never did, regardless of why the text survives, and its voice is powerful, not to replace scripture, but to illuminate a chapter of ancient faith and cosmic conflict that the Bible only hints at. So with humility, we explore, not to force a conclusion on anyone, but to listen, to learn, and to consider. Enoch's calling messenger to heaven and earth. Enoch was not merely taken to heaven. According to his own writings, he was commissioned to record celestial mysteries, to warn the fallen, to instruct the righteous, to witness the rise of corruption before the deluge drowned it. Imagine being chosen for such a task, a mortal, shown the portals of heaven and the destiny of angels, a man entrusted with revelations about judgment, redemption, and the cosmic timeline of creation. In this First Age, he sees watchers, angels assigned to guide mankind, their rebellion, driven by desire and pride, forbidden knowledge given to humanity, the birth of giants, beings of power and terror, God's decree of cleansing judgment, the forming storm of the Great Flood. This is not just mythology, It is a worldview ancient, spiritual, and deeply embedded within early religious thought. And like any sacred story, it demands both reverence and discernment. Our journey begins in this series. We will trace the Watchers' rebellion, explore the origins of the Nephilim, and what made them so feared, witness the heavenly court where judgment is passed, follow Enoch through prophetic visions of the first age, and uncover why this text shapes discussions about angels, demons, and the end times. Even today, this is not a story of fantasy. It's a record of a spiritual war echoing through scripture, echoed in prophecy, and still resonating in modern questions about the unseen realm. So sit with us, travel back to the dawn of mankind, step into a world where heaven touched earth, and not always for good, because in the first age, the battle between light and rebellion had only just begun. Coming up, the descent of the Watchers and the first forbidden union between heaven and earth. Asterisk, the descent of the Watchers and the birth of the Nephilim. Asterisk, before the world knew kings and empires, before the scrolls of prophets and apostles, there came a moment in prehistory that changed the destiny of humankind forever. A moment when the boundary between heaven and earth, a boundary ordained by the Creator himself, was crossed. Not by accident, not by curiosity, but by choice. By will. By rebellion. These beings were called Watchers. Not demons, not yet, but angels sent to guide humanity. And in the ancient text of Enoch, their story begins not in darkness, but in duty, assignment, purpose, until, somewhere along their celestial mission, purpose twisted into desire, duty transformed into obsession, and guardians became seducers of mankind. The Watchers of Enoch tells us these angels descended upon Mount Hermon, in the far north, a place that later generations would call mysterious, sacred, even cursed. They did not come quietly. Their arrival was seen, felt, a shimmering in the heavens, a presence upon the wind, a feeling like creation itself held its breath. And these Watchers did not descend alone. Their leader was a being called Shemahaz, mighty, commanding, revered among angels. He gathered others, 200 in total, and as they hovered above the earth, he spoke. Not words of worship, not a message from God, but a pact of awe sealed with fear and determination. They knew what they desired. They knew it was forbidden, and they feared the judgment that would follow. So Shemahaz declared, "Let us all swear an oath and bind ourselves with a curse not to abandon this plan." In other words, if they fell, they would fall together. A celestial mutiny, a brotherhood of rebellion. And in a single moment, 200 divine beings bent the arc of human history. Why did they fall? Many traditions have theories, but the Book of Enoch gives two powerful motivations. First, desire. The Watchers saw human women, daughters of earth, and they burned with longing, not spiritual affection, but physical hunger, a desire foreign to divine order. Second, pride. The Watchers were not ignorant. They knew the hierarchy of heaven, but their pride, their belief that they should shape the world, seduced them as much as mortal beauty did. Desire clouded duty, pride corrupted purpose, and so, under the solemn darkness of pre-diluvian skies, angels touched earth and abandoned heaven. Forbidden union. Book of Enoch tells us plainly, the Watchers took wives from among human women. They did not merely observe humanity, they mingled with it. And from these unions came beings who were neither angel nor man, giants, mighty ones, Nephilim. Not giants of storybook imagination, but beings of immense strength, towering stature, and terrifying power. Creatures born of a union never meant to exist. Creatures who hungered, not just for food, but for domination, violence, blood. They devoured the labors of men. And when food was not enough, they devoured men. Humanity became prey in its own world. The age of innocence shattered. The earth groaned under corruption. Violence filled every corner of creation. And heaven watched. Forbidden knowledge. But the Watchers did more than father giants. They taught mankind secrets, not wisdom, not righteousness, but arts and sciences too powerful, too sacred, too dangerous to be given at that time. Shemahazet taught enchantments. Azazel unveiled weapons, metals, and warfare. Others revealed the motions of the stars, the secrets of roots, the writing of spells, the power of signs and symbols, even cosmetic enchantment, the manipulation of beauty itself. Knowledge meant for heaven's vaults spilled into earthly hands. Humanity advanced, but not toward God, toward power, toward corruption, toward pride, mirroring the angels who fell. The world became a forge of desire and violence, and the Watchers, once guardians, became tyrants and corrupters. A cry from the earth, according to Enoch. The earth itself cried out, not metaphorically but as though creation, wounded by sin, groaned for justice. Humanity prayed not to idols, but in raw desperation for deliverance, protection, and mercy, and their cries reached heaven. The book says the angels who remained faithful heard them: Michael, the warrior; Raphael, the healer; Gabriel, the messenger; Uriel, the guardian of the world. They looked upon earth and trembled at what they saw. Heaven's sons defying heaven, earth's daughters bound to celestial trespassers, giants ruling in terror, violence spreading like wildfire, and every breath of creation poisoned by rebellion. And they brought word before the throne of God. Judgment begins. Almighty does not rush. He does not panic. He observes, and then he decrees. The time of patience was ending. Judgment was coming, not only for mankind, but first for the angels who brought this ruin. The Watchers would be bound, their offspring destroyed, the world cleansed. But before judgment fell, a messenger was chosen. Not Moses, not Noah, not any prophet of Israel yet unborn, but the one man who walked with God, the one mortal heaven trusted to hear divine secrets. Enoch, a bridge between heaven and earth, a witness to rebellion, a herald of judgment. He would stand before the Watchers. He would carry God's decree, and he would record visions of cosmic justice and redemption yet to come. History was about to change. The flood was forming. Judgment was stirring. Heaven was no longer silent, and Enoch would speak. The heavenly court and Enoch's calling. Asterisk corruption had spread like shadow along the spine of the world. Violence was no longer the exception. It had become the rhythm of life. And in the midst of this chaos, something remarkable happened. Heaven did not simply watch. It called, not with thunder, but with purpose, not to a king, a warrior, or a sage, but to a quiet man who walked in righteousness, a man whose heart listened more than it spoke. His name was Enoch. The chosen messenger. Enoch was no prophet in the grand public sense, no voice crying through cities, no priest robed in sacred garments. He lived humbly, he walked faithfully, and heaven noticed. The ancient writing says, Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. This is the world's brief glimpse into a life veiled in mystery. But Enoch's own testimony fills in the silence. He did not vanish in confusion. He was summoned, a mortal, invited into celestial halls, a man chosen to witness what angels trembled to behold. The faithful angels gathered, distressed by the Watchers' rebellion, and they brought Enoch before the throne, not as a servant, but as a scribe, a witness, and a mediator, a role that no other human had ever been given. The plea of the Watchers. But what happened next is among the most humbling and astonishing moments in ancient sacred literature. The fallen Watchers, mighty beings forged before the earth was formed, begged Enoch to intercede for them. Powerful angels, once radiant guardians of humanity, now shaken by the reality of divine judgment, turned not to heaven but to a man. They pleaded, "Write for us a petition that we may find forgiveness." Imagine that. Beings who once held dominion over stars and mysteries now petitioning clay and breath. It speaks to two truths. First, spiritual rebellion eventually kneels, whether willingly or by force. Second, there is a humility in human obedience that heaven honors, a posture even angels envy. The Watchers feared their fate, but their remorse was not pure. Their concern was not for mankind they corrupted, but for themselves. They did not repent for what they caused. They mourned what they would lose, and so Enoch, burdened yet obedient, received their petition. He promised to bring it before the Almighty, not as their advocate, but as heaven's chosen witness. The journey into the heavens, what follows, is one of the most awe-striking ascents in ancient literature. Enoch is lifted from earth, not in dream, not in vision alone, but in spirit and presence. The boundaries of creation unfurl before him. The first heaven, where winds and clouds gather. The second, where ancient forces reside. Higher still, into light and terror and wonder, he approaches a place where mortal sight dissolves into all. I saw a house built of crystals, its floor like flowing fire, imagery not of human architecture, but of divine geometry, lightning alive, singing through the walls, stars embedded like jewels in a throne no mind could conceive, and beyond it, a brilliance, unbearable, unapproachable. The presence, the source of all life, justice, mercy, power untold. Before such glory, Enoch collapses not in fear, but in reverence. No words needed. Silence becomes worship. And from the throne comes decree, not anger, but sovereign clarity. The divine edict verdict is not what the watchers hoped for. Their petition is rejected. The ancient text says, "You were in heaven, and all earth was granted to you, but you defiled yourselves with flesh," a line not spoken in rage, but in truth. They abandoned perfection for corruption. They traded eternity for appetite. And God declares, the watchers will be bound in darkness. Their offspring, the Nephilim, will be destroyed. Their influence on humanity will be purged. Their judgment will serve as warning for all ages. But then, something profound. The Lord instructs Enoch to announce this judgment to angels, immortal, delivering sentence to immortals. Heaven, once again, honoring humility over power. Enoch descends not like a triumphant messenger, but like a man carrying the weight of divine decree. He approaches the watchers, not as an ally, not as a judge, but as a witness to their downfall. The text describes them trembling, covering their faces, unable to look upon him. They know the verdict before he speaks it. Heaven's silence has broken. Judgment has been sealed. Enoch tells them, your petition shall not be granted. No dramatic rebuke, no triumph. Just solemn truth. Some angels wail, others fall silent. A few rage quietly at their fate, but none escape it. The turning tide with the decree delivered. The world shifts, a clock begins to tick, a timeline of cleansing, an age drawing to its end. The watchers will soon be seized. Their offspring will be destroyed, and earth drenched in violence will be washed clean. But amid the storm forming, a quiet thread emerges. Hoped up because Enoch's calling is not only about judgment. It is about the preservation of righteousness. His writings are meant for future generations, for those who seek wisdom in chaos, light in confusion, and truth beyond the veil. And as his mission unfolds, another figure rises, a descendant, humble and faithful like Enoch, Noah. But his time is not yet, for now the heavens prepare to move, and the earth braces for divine intervention. The story is about to accelerate. The unseen world is stirring, and the first age trembles on the edge of its final dawn. Noah, the last righteous line, and the shadows. Before the flood, every era has a turning point, a moment where corruption reaches such a height that mercy and judgment must walk hand in hand. The first age had reached the threshold. The watchers were condemned. Their children, the Nephilim, would soon fall, and the earth, once pure, once blessed, was now stained by violence, blood, and unrestrained power. Yet in the midst of that fading world, one family remained untouched by the chaos around them, a man of quiet conviction, a man of clean hands in a corrupted generation. His name was Noah. Why no? Scripture later describes him simply. Noah was a righteous man, blameless in his generation. He walked with God. History often highlights his arc, his obedience, his role in surviving the flood. But before the first plank was cut, before animals gathered 2 by 2, Noah was something much more fundamental. a preserved lineage, a living testimony that faithfulness could survive even when the world surrendered to darkness. Unlike the Watchers, Noah did not lust after power. Unlike the Nephilim, he did not dominate nor destroy. He lived quietly, faithfully, a steady flame in a world of shadows. And heaven noticed. The last pure thread there is a haunting idea woven through the ancient texts, that perhaps the corruption of the Watchers was not merely moral, but genetic. A contamination spreading through bloodlines, through desire, through violence, through intermingling of truth. Then Noah's righteousness was not only spiritual, it was preservation, a final, unbroken thread to the beginning. His life represented a promise that humanity would not vanish beneath corruption, that the image of the Creator would not be erased by the pride of angels or the hunger of giants. In Noah, purity survived, and through him the future still had a chance. A fading world, but while Noah walked with God, the rest of the earth walked toward oblivion. Cities rose, not in worship, but in arrogance. Knowledge spread, not in wisdom, but in wickedness. And the Nephilim, giants of terror and appetite, continued their reign. They hunted not for survival, but for sport. They claimed territories as living gods, worshipped in fear rather than love. They taught mankind to trust in strength, not in righteousness, and in their shadow, human hearts hardened. The weak suffered, the innocent bled, the earth groaned beneath their feet. Enoch's final warning before the silence of judgment. There was one last voice. Enoch, commissioned from heaven, delivered prophecy to Noah. A deluge would come, not a mythic cleansing, but a divine reset. Waters would rise and erase corruption. Mountains would drown. Structures of pride would crumble like sand before a tide. And then Enoch was gone, taken again, not in death but in ascension, a mortal, lifted beyond mortal bounds, a witness sealed into eternity. And his message lingered like a tremor before an earthquake. The ark begins. Picture Noah at the first stroke of his chisel. No storm clouds yet, no rushing wind, only obedience. A man carving wood against the mockery of his time. His neighbors laughed. Leaders dismissed him. The mighty scorned him. In a world where angels once walked, faith must have seemed foolish. Yet Noah worked, not driven by fear, but by trust. Every plank, every beam, every joint was an act of worship. A sanctuary rising in a world sprinting toward ruin. A world blind to its end. Ancient text and later scriptures agree. Humanity did not believe judgment would come. They celebrated, they married, they built, they boasted. The ground shook with dancing feet, while the world beneath them cracked. Giants roamed unconcerned, kings plotted as though eternity belonged to them. Craftsmen carved idols to giants who would soon drown like men. Life continued, until suddenly, it wouldn't. There is a tragic arrogance in every civilization that believes its own decline impossible. The first age was no different. Why judgment? Some ask, gently, earnestly. Why such a drastic act? Why a flood? Because creation itself had been violated. Because innocence had become prey. Because life, once sacred, had been twisted into a spectacle of power. Judgment was not rage, it was restoration, a cleansing not of humanity alone, of the spiritual infection that had breached creation. The flood was divine medicine, bitter, severe, but merciful in its purpose. The calm before the storm. Before judgment falls, there is always stillness, a quiet sky, an ordinary sunrise, children laughing, giants boasting, builders hammering without knowing. Every blow echoes toward their end. And in a clearing, Noah labored. He listened not to the world but to heaven. He prepared not because he saw danger, but because he trusted the one who did. And somewhere unseen, waters waited. Clouds gathered beyond the horizon of time. Angel watchers prepared their final task, and the breath of the world held in quiet anticipation. The first age was ending, not with noise, but with inevitability. The great flood, when heaven moved. There are moments in history when heaven speaks softly, and then there are moments when heaven moves for generations. The world had been warned, through conscience, through suffering, through the righteous life of a faithful man. But warnings fade in ears that refuse to hear. And so, when the last grain of patience had fallen, when every righteous thread beyond one family had unraveled, when the earth could no longer bear the weight of violence, judgment arrived, not in rage, not in chaos, but in order, in finality, in water. The world that had once been bathed in divine light was about to be baptized in divine justice. The ark sealed. Noah had finished the ark. Not a ship of elegance, but a vessel of obedience. Pitch sealed the beams. Animals gathered not by Noah's wisdom, but by divine instruction. Pairs, and in some cases, sevens. Silence settled over the valley as creation prepared to reset. Noah stood with his family, 8 souls in total, a number of new beginnings. And then something profound happened. The text says the Lord shut the door, a gesture symbolic and final. Salvation secured from outside human hands. Judgment sealed with divine authority. The world of the first age exhaled its last unrepentant breath. The first drop rain was not unknown in that age, but this rain felt different. Heavier, colder, as if each drop were a tear fallen from the vaults of heaven. A few looked up, curious. Some paused in their labor. Others dismissed it as passing weather. The Nephilim laughed. They were the unchallenged rulers of earth. What was rain to giants? But then the sky split, not metaphorically but with the roar of 1,000 storms colliding at once. Thunder cracked like the shattering of worlds. Lightning tore the horizon like divine fire. The foundations of the deep burst forth. Waters surged from above and below. The heavens opened. The earth broke. The age of arrogance drowned beneath the judgment it mocked. When strength means, the thing imagined the giants. Tall, powerful, feared, nothing had ever threatened them. Until now. Water does not negotiate. Tides do not bow to muscle. Storms do not tremble before flesh. Great warriors clawed at rising torrents. Kings screamed orders drowned out by thunder. Weapons forged in forbidden fire lay useless in the mud. And humanity, once seduced by power, once intoxicated by violence, now ran in terror beside the very giants they once worshipped. The mighty and the meek met the same end. Because judgment does not measure height, it measures truth. A world-era cities vanished beneath waves. Temples built to fallen angels crumbled like dust. Fields, gardens, monuments, all swallowed by water. The laughter of giants fell silent. The songs of the wicked ceased. The earth was washed of the stain that defied heaven. And in the heart of the storm, the ark rose. Not by human power, but by divine preservation. Noah did not command the waters. He merely trusted the one who did. Salvation is not in strength, it is in surrender. The watchers fainted. What of the watchers? As chaos covered the world, they did not escape. Bound by divine decree, imprisoned in darkness, they watched their legacy drown, their children destroyed, their influence broken, their rebellion sealed in eternal chains. From glory to confinement, from guardians to condemned, a sobering reminder that to fall from heaven is to fall farther than any mortal ever could. A cleansing, not an ending for 40 days and nights. Waters hammered the world, not a random storm. A cosmic purge, a reset of creation. A removal of corruption so deep that even mountains disappeared beneath judgment. But judgment was not the final word. Grace rode upon the waters. Hope floated inward, and obedience. The future lived through 8 souls kept safe in the hollow of divine promise. And when the waters finally receded, the world that emerged was not the same world that had drowned. A new age had begun. A rainbow covenant when the ark came to rest. And Noah stepped onto renewed earth. He did not boast. He did not claim victory. He worshipped. And God responded with covenant, a promise etched in the sky. No more global purging by water. No more judgment of that magnitude before the appointed time. A bow set in the clouds, not a weapon of war, but a sign of mercy. Judgment cleansed. Greece rebuilt. The first age had ended. Humanity was reborn. But echoes remained. How the giants perished. Their legend did not. Whispers of them lingered in later ages, in warrior myths, in tales of titans and demigods, in the faint echoes of ancient dread. And the watchers, still bound in darkness, would wait for a day of final judgment yet to come. Enoch's words did not fade. They traveled through generations, a reminder that unseen realms shape seeing worlds. And though the flood washed the earth, it did not erase the memory of rebellion, nor the promise of ultimate restoration. The first age is gone, but its lessons endure. Power without purity corrupts, knowledge without obedience destroys, and righteousness, even in one man, is enough for God to rebuild a world. Yet the story is not complete, for though the earth is new, the struggle between heaven and rebellion is not over. Not yet. After the flood, echoes of Enoch and the shadow of future judgment, the waters receded, the wind stilled, and the world awakened to its second dawn. Where once giants roamed, now only empty valleys lay silent. Where violence reigned, only peace remained. A humbled earth inhaled its first breath of renewal. Noah stood upon cleansed soil, his family beside him, each souls bearing the weight of all humanity's tomorrows. They were survivors, but more than that, they were bearers of memory. Memory of a world before corruption, memory of an age overtaken by angels, memory of judgment, mercy, and a covenant sealed in the sky. The silence after judgment had come and passed, yet judgment leaves a silence of its own, a quiet that forces reflection, a stillness that demands reverence. No laughter of the wicked, no boasting of tyrants, no echo of giants upon the hills, only the whisper of wind through new leaves, and the steady heartbeat of a world reborn. But in that silence, something else stirred: legacy, memory, warning. For judgment cleanses the earth, but the lesson is for mankind. The remnant of Enoch was gone, taken, not buried. His voice did not vanish. It lived in written record. It lived in Noah's faith. It lived in the sacred stories carried forward by those who survived the flood. A man once mortal had entered realms beyond flesh, and returned with prophecy not just for his age, but for the ages to come. His message was not simply of ancient rebellion, it was a mirror for the future. For as the world was once consumed by water, so one day, Enoch warned, it would face fire and final judgment, a second reckoning, not by flood, but by purification of glory. Corruption returns for a time. The earth stayed peaceful, but history teaches a consistent truth. Humanity remembers judgment slowly, and forgets rebellion quickly. The children of Noah multiplied, nations began to form, civilization rose once more, and with it, pride. Though the watchers were bound, though the Nephilim had fallen, shadows of defiance stirred again in human hearts, not by angelic descent this time, but by human choice. Where there is free will, there is the possibility of forgetting the flood, forgetting the covenant, forgetting the warning, and forgetting that heaven watches still. Enoch's prophecy of the end in the ancient text. Enoch speaks not only of the first age, but of the last age, the future time when knowledge increases without wisdom, pride rises without restraint, violence spreads like wildfire, and the spiritual realm intervenes again. A time when the hearts of many grow cold, when the righteous grow weary, and when justice appears delayed. A time when humanity, like in Noah's day, believes judgment will never come. And just as the first age fell to water, the final age, Enoch says, will be refined in fire and glory, not to destroy creation, but to restore it fully, not to erase mankind, but to redeem the faithful and judge rebellion once and for all. A story bigger than time. This is not merely an ancient myth, not simply a cultural tale, not a forgotten scroll lost to dust. This is a spiritual map, a record of cosmic order, a warning to generations, a hope for the humble. The story of the first age is not just what happened, it is what will happen again, in pattern if not in form. The rebellion of the watchers was the first shadow. Human pride became the second, and in the end, every age is asked the same question: will we remember? The weight of Enoch's journey. Enoch walked among angels. He witnessed realms unseen. He spoke words meant not only for ancient ears, but for the last generation. His writings are not entertainment. They are a lantern for those who wish to see beyond the veil, a reminder that power is never licensed, knowledge is responsibility, judgment is real, and humility is strength. Enoch did not rise because he commanded heaven. He rose because he walked with God, quietly, faithfully, without spectacle. Just as Noah obeyed without applause, and just as every righteous remnant must do in their own time. The first age ends, the journey begins. As episode 1 closes, the floodwaters have settled, the ark rests in peace. A rainbow arches across a world renewed, but the echoes of the first age are not silenced. They call to us through Enoch's pages, through Noah's obedience, through the covenant in the clouds. Walk humbly, discern wisely, remember what came before. For the story of Enoch is not just the story of angels and giants, it is the story of humanity's choice. Every age rises, every age falls, every generation decides whom it will follow, rebellion or righteousness, pride or obedience, the fallen or the one who calls us upward.